Okay, we have moved over here to the build bench. We're going to put together this Turbo 350 for you guys today. If you've been watching this long, thank you so much. I'm about to show you guys some very intricate stuff here in about 5 minutes. The first thing that you want to do is go ahead and get your seals on your pistons, your direct, your forward, and then your low reverse piston here. And then we also have an intermediate piston that goes in the back of this pump down inside of here that we're going to find real quick right here. There's your intermediate piston. Now we went with a 5 clutch direct piston, and you can see how much smaller that is. That allows you to get one more friction in the direct drum. So we're gonna move these over, and we're gonna get into our kit here. Now, these two are the same. Both of these are the exact same. You're going to flip these down, tits down, as they always say. Some of these have, if they have a whole entire spring perch, not a two-piece spring perch, they sit in there just like that. But on all of the direct pistons, there's always tits on there. So always tits down on both of them, just like that. And then you're going to make sure that the inner lip here faces up towards you. So this side here, where the numbers are, just like that, it's going to face up towards you. We're going to throw these on real quick. We're just going to wrap that around just like that on both of these. Now here's your two outer seals. One is a 1054 and the other one is a 292. So the 292 is the bigger of the two, and it goes onto your forward piston here. We're going to wrap that around, and again, this lip is going to face up like this to you, where you're almost like where you can grip it like that. It's not sliding down. If you put it on there backwards, it's just going to cross leak, and you'll burn up a clutch pack very quickly. Same thing here. And just bear with me, guys. This is just the monotonous part of this. We're going to get into the action very momentarily. So there's your two pistons. We'll go ahead and find our seals for our intermediate, which is all of these should be the same too in every single kit. A 080 is the last three for the outer seal. And again, tits down on the bottom here. There's nothing here because it's a full spring perch. But that's where the spring perch rides, that faces down. So you can put these seals on just like that with the lip facing up towards you. And then your lip is going to face up towards you on the inside of this one. So we're just going to walk these on just like that. And then we'll move over here to our low reverse piston. There's a little bit of rust down in there, but I'm not too worried about that. These are flat. So there's one, there's two, and there's three. So these do not have any lips whatsoever. They just sit right down in the case. We're going to walk these around just like that. There's three of these. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're going to start out by assembling our drums. I've got some dinosaur lip seal tools here that help me install these pistons. Wipe these off really quick. Okay, you're going to take a little bit of grease on your finger. If you use a brush, you can get bristles on them. So I've been using my finger a lot here lately. Just put a lot of grease here. You can use Vaseline. You can use red high temp grease in these Turbo 350s. Some transmissions, they you know, it's up in the air. I've used all these different greases. Some people will tell you, oh, you can't use that grease on there. I've used all sorts of different grease and I've never had a problem. We're going to set these down over top like that. That way it compresses these seals. And then we're going to take a little bit of grease and some transmission fluid, go inside of the drum, and we're just going to walk it around here where that piston rides. It's around the center and around the outside. We'll take our piston and drop it in and rotate as we push down. Now after that, you're going to find your spring perch, and we're going to go with a whole spring perch here, and I've got to find another one in just a moment. And we're going to set there just like that. Now we're going to have a snap ring in here in just a moment. We're going to move over to the direct drum. We have removed this inner seal here because we're going to dual feed second gear. Let's put a little bit of fluid down in there and just a little bit of grease. We're going to walk that around as well, just right around where that piston rides on both sides here. Bam, bam. I like to put this cap on here first. You cannot find these anywhere. I've looked for you guys day in, day out, trying to find you just a reference on where to find these things. They do not make them anymore, so I may have the last set known to man. That would be pretty funny. Again, we're just going to lube up our seals here very generously. And then we're going to take this here. And I just like to push over top and make sure it's flush with the bottom of that. And then we're going to see if sometimes these can be a booger, so bear with me here. Get it down in there and just do a little twist. There it went. Okay, we're off to a good start here for this Turbo 350. Now I'm going to find another spring perch really quick. That way we have all the springs. That way we raise up the spring rate. That way this piston comes back very quickly and it doesn't drag at all. Give me one moment. Okay, so we've got our drums over here. We've got our full spring perch here. We're going to press down with our foot press. And there's our snap ring going in there. Make sure that's completely seated all the way around. That looks really, really good. Now we got a full spring perch for our direct drum here. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to press down. Bam. And that one is completely seated as well. We're going to start here with our forward drum. Now our forward drum is the one with the shaft in the middle of it. A wavy goes in first. Then you're going to add a steel disc and a friction. And you're going to alternate to the top until you have a friction on the top. Now there's 5. Now we're going to measure this right here, this little ledge, from this ledge down to the bottom of the clutch pack. So we're going to measure from the ledge down to the bottom of the clutch pack. We've got about 87 thousandths there. And we're going to measure this from the top of the plate to the tooth. And we're at about 30. So that gives us right around 45, 50 thousandths there. That's money. You want these to be a little bit on the free side just so everything spins freely. I've built probably 600, maybe 700 of these Turbo 350s, and anywhere between 20 and 60 you can easily get away with. They're not a very crucial transmission when it comes to setting your clutch clearances. Obviously you don't want the clutch clearances to be smashed up against the top plate, because then it's not going to turn. It's going to be locked in that gear, and it will burn that clutch pack up. So this is done. We're going to put our snap ring on. Bam. Check that one more time. That feels really, really good. A lot of transmission building does have to do with feel, especially if you get 4 or 5 of these things in you're trying to do in 2 days. Buzzing through them and just being comfortable with them. It just takes time and repetition. Now, a lot of you guys are going to be like, bro, you just put your clutches in dry. It doesn't matter with the Turbo 350, and for that fact, I've built 68s dry, I've built 700s dry, I've built 4L60Es dry. As long as you break these things in on the lift, I cannot reiterate this enough to all you clowns out there on the internet. If you break this in the proper way, which you're going to do anyway, nothing is going to fail. How are you going to ship a transmission that's full of transmission fluid? So we're going to flip this over and find our bearing here, this bearing has a little lip on it, just like this. The other bearing that looks like this is for your pump, but it does not have a lip. So that's how you differentiate the two. We're gonna drop that on just like that. And we're gonna move on to our direct drum here. We're gonna start it with a friction. There is no wavy in the direct drum. We're just gonna stack this up just like the other one. Whoops. Okay, and again, we just want to make sure we've got about 80 thousandths of clearance from the ledge. This one's just a little bit tougher to measure. And this is about 90, so we can find a little thicker plate to go on here. Let's see what I've got right here. I want one just a little bit thicker than that. There's a good one. Let's see, we're looking for about 40 to 50 thousandths here. 55? That would give us 45 thousandths. So we're going to drop this in, make sure this top clutch spins. And you can also put it over here and just make sure that you've got a little bit of play there, up and down. That's good. As long as that top clutch spins, you are A-okay. Now, you don't want to have 200 thousandths of clearance, but you need to keep it in between 20 to 60, 20 to 80, just somewhere around in that line. If you're doing this your first time and you don't have extra parts to pick from, I'm just trying to tell you what you can get away with. I'm not saying if you're trying to build a 700 transmission capable of holding 750 horsepower to do it blindly. I'm just saying if you're trying to get by, like I'm trying to give you guys this information.
Yeah, if it's your daily driver,
yeah,
and your training went out, but you don't necessarily have the money to get it rebuilt.
Right.
We're trying to help you guys learn how to do this.
So don't take me as a cob, as an unprofessional person. I'm just strictly making these videos for those that want to learn and to know what you can and can't get away with. So after we put our top plate on, we are going to put our other snap ring in here. Just like so. Bam. And we're going to double check this, make sure this spins. That's absolutely money. And that moves. That's got about 40 thousandths, 30 thousandths. That's freaking money. They're not that crucial, guys. The people that try to overcomplicate these things are the ones that don't want you building them. So we flipped it over here. And we're going to put a sprag on. Now, I did talk about getting a 36 element drum for this unit, but this is a four-wheel drive vehicle. And in my opinion, the 36 element drum, it has 36 elements versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's for when you're racing it and it's going into second gear, and that intermediate clutch pack has got to clamp onto this drum in order for it to stop spinning in second gear. He's going to be doing off-roading, so he's always going to be either in first, second, or third, probably manually shifting it. So in my opinion, he doesn't need to spend the 600 bucks on the drum for him to get by. This isn't some crazy race car going down a prep track that needs to be 100% top notch, pulling 850 horsepower. Just not it. I'm not putting a trans brake in this thing. We're not going crazy with it. This is strictly to show you guys what you can and can't get away with depending on your application. So this sprag only goes on there one way. You want to match the teeth up with the angle of this race here, or this where it mounts to the drum. And sometimes you do have to kind of pop these around just to get it to seat. Last one right there. One more here. Bam. And that's going to lock on just like that. You see how that's matched up there? How that shape fits? You can put them on there backwards and you'll know. Here is our salt nitrate treated race. This has been treated to 2,000 degrees. And this is what I'm going to go with instead of buying him that whole drum with the hardened race. This is going to be okay for what he's planning to do with this vehicle. I'm just trying to save the customer money. I'm going to walk it on there just like that, and it should spin counterclockwise if it's facing up to you. Make sure it spins freely, it doesn't get hung up. When you go to spin it clockwise, it's going to lock. That's exactly what you want it to do. Now, this retainer goes over the top. just like that. And then you take your snap ring, tuck it in with your top finger, and then pull back at 6 o'clock, and then over at 3 o'clock. Bam. Now, your direct drum is done. Your forward drum is done. You can take your forward drum, sit it in front of you, and take your direct drum and walk it on. Bam. And it's already had a wide bushing in it, and the bushing seems to be fine. I've already fit it into the pump. Everything feels good on that, so I'm not going to beat that out and try to change that because there's already a wide one in it. These feel really, really nice, so let's move on to the pump. All right, we're moving on here to our pump. This is a 1969 model, as you can see here with this little valve in it. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on that and tuck this spring in, and we're going to go ahead and shove that in. Make sure that retracts back and forth. That's good. Now, typically there is a dot on your internal pump gear here, your drive gear, right there. And so we're going to put in this outer pump gear. We're going to make sure this dot is facing up towards us so the torque converter will not be seated properly. Put a little bit of dab of, put a little granny fluid in there. Just make sure this thing rotates around. That feels really good. I like to find the triangle down here. That's what I call this, is a triangle. And then you're going to find the triangle here on your pump stator. We're going to drop the pump stator in, match it up with the triangle on that side, and get our pump alignment tool. Get this little piece of gasket off there. I didn't see. You want to make sure all your gaskets are off your parts. So a small little spot there that I missed. See, guys, even I make mistakes. Okay, we're gonna put our pump alignment tool on here. Let me make sure my seal is off this too. Nope, my seal is not off. Make sure you take your old seal off, or it's gonna throw off your alignment. Go back on with it here. Make sure all your holes line up, and we're gonna tighten this down pretty snug. Make sure those holes line up real well. Get it all tighty tight. Okay. Put a little bit of transmission fluid inside of that groove there, and put a little bit of grease in your finger and just walk that around. All right. Now, here's our piston. We're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to walk around here and make sure this is all lubed up on both sides. And again, you can use a brush, but make sure you buy an expensive brush. That way it does not leave any bristles, because it can stop up your transmission. We're going to set that right into the top. We're going to grab our lip skizzard here. Oh, lip skizzard! Oh man, I love these things.
Yeah, good luck finding them.
Yeah, they were hard to find. One came in the kit the other day. I was surprised. Now you're going to put a little bit of pressure at 12 and 6 o'clock, and you're going to walk this thing around nice and slow. Be careful not to cut the seal, because I've cut them before doing it like this, especially with a feeler gauge or something. We're going to go on the outside, and then we're going to go on the inside. Just try to walk that lip inside of the groove. Again, add a little bit of pressure, put a little pressure, and go on the outside one more time. Now you're going to take your knee and press it up against the pump and give this a good twist. Okay, we're hung up here. We're going to go back in with our lip wizard and try to tuck that lip in ever so slightly. Same thing on the outside here, just nice and gentle. These things can be a booger sometimes. There it goes. Okay, we're good to go there. Now we're going to find a spring perch to go in here. The one that came out of it is, I threw it in the trash, so give me a moment. Dang. Somebody's out there meowing. Okay, here's our full spring perch. Remember the other one had some springs missing in it. We're going to line this up here. Well, I had it lined up a minute ago. There we go. Now these bolts, you can easily get these mixed up. This is a valve body bolt, and this is a pump bolt. You see how similar they are? This one has a very shallow throat. That one has a longer throat. the shallower ones go in. There's 5 of them. Now you're going to take your gun and just buzz them down. And then take your ratchet here and just snug them in. Now remove your pump alignment tool, and we're going to go test this in a converter and make sure that everything spins and that our pump gears are the right size.
Oh man, we're taking a trip.
Taking a trip. I've got a brand new converter here. I'm going to drop this thing right in just like this. That spins very free. You can hear it engaging with the pump teeth. That looks really good. Put the cap back on your converter. And your pump, you still have to put your seal on the side, but we have to measure the end play first. Okay, now that that's done, we can move over here to our low reverse drum. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is put this valve body together for you guys really quick. All right, here's our pressure regulator valve here. We're going to start with that on the farthest to the left. Make sure that goes all the way up. And now we're going to go with our 1-2 shift valve. That is the smaller of the two. Make sure that goes all the way up. Sometimes you got to give it a tap with a screwdriver. Okay. And now your third 2-3 shift valve here goes into your hole farthest to the right. Make sure that goes all the way up. Now you got your pressure regulator spring here. This is a heavy duty performance spring. Here's your spring for your 1-2 shift valve. And those are your only 2 springs there. We are going to throw this manual valve in there, manual low valve in there. We are going to block that off. Make sure that goes all the way up as well. Bam. That one's in there. That one's in there. Okay. Now here is your 3 aluminum sleeves here. We're going to start with our pressure regulator spring or sleeve here. The small little piece just drops in just like that. I take my pinky, just kind of walk it in. It can be a little tough sometimes. Bam. So it goes all the way down, and put your other one in. And you want to make sure this thing floats. It's a floating valve. So make sure it moves back and forth just like that. I like to put a little bit of grease in the top of it to make sure this thing doesn't fly out when I put it inside. I'll put a little bit of grease around the side and just get this started here. The side of here you want to line up with your roll pin. We're just going to get that started. Let's move over to the 1-2 shift valve. I'm going to put a little bit of grease in the bottom. That way it holds this tiny little spring into place. You see that little spring right there? We're going to take that and put it right into our sleeve. We're going to make sure this moves up and down. That feels really good. And we're going to go ahead and get that one started. Now the roll pin's on the other side, so make sure you face your indentation to the right side. Just like that. Now your 2-3 shift valve, the same thing here. We're going to get a little bit of grease on it. And this spring is just a little bit bigger. Just like that. And drops into your longest aluminum sleeve. And we're going to make sure that moves back and forth just like so. Let's get that one started. Okay, now we got all 3 of our valves in. I'm going to scoot this over my way just a bit. I'm going to hold with my finger and push in with my thumb. All the way in and drop your roll pin in. Just like that. Very easy. Same thing here on your 2-3 shift valve. All the way in. Drop the roll pin in. And finally, your 2-3 shift valve here. Just like that. You got to be careful. Sometimes these things can come back out. So I'll take a finish nail, the head of it, and just give these things a little tap to make sure they're all the way down in. Okay, now I gotta find 2 intermediate springs to go in here. You can go back to back with them, and we can block this manual low valve off. Give me one moment. Okay, these are the smallest springs in the Turbo 350 for your intermediate clutch pack. We're gonna double those up and then get our cap here and push in all the way in, drop a roll pin in, and that blocks off that valve. Okay, we got an E-clip here on the top that goes into this servo, which this servo is only used for manual second. We're gonna get that E-clip started, and then we're gonna walk it in with a screwdriver. Just like that. And now we've got our manual valve here. I like to go ahead and throw that in just like this. Bam. Now you need to find your S-link. Got it here. Find your hole. Bam. And there's your S-link. Just like that. And we'll put this kick down cable in just a moment. But your valve body is complete. Let's make sure our valves move back and forth. Pressure regulator valve here. Moves back and forth. 1-2 shift valve. That moves back and forth, great. And your 2-3 shift valve moves back and forth. Check these other valves too, make sure nothing's broken, everything feels good in here. As long as they retract, you're in good shape. Okay, I'm gonna set this on top so we can use that in just a moment and set this over to the side. All right, we're gonna add a little bit of grease here to our low reverse piston. We've already put these seals on here. A little bit of transmission fluid, a little bit of grease. Hello, Skelly, how are you today? She said she's doing great. I'm going to drop a little bit of transmission fluid down into the transmission here. Bam. I'm going to walk that around with my finger, around where the piston rides. Now there's a little tooth on this piston here that goes at 12 o'clock. We're going to drop that in. Make sure that locks in. You can hear it. Now, this is a little bit unorthodox, but you can use a little screwdriver, just tap around, right on the lip. It doesn't take much. You're not damaging anything. It's not a crucial spot, so if you have a screwdriver you're going to use a screwdriver. It doesn't matter. There's no reason to get lost in the sauce about this stuff if you're doing it at home, just trying to get by. If you're doing something for a performance vehicle, I completely get it, but this is basically the simplest way to build a Turbo 350. That is what the title of this video is. Let's see here. Now here's our spring perch right there. It's a full spring perch. Now some of these are 2 pieces where it's just a cap and you have to individually stack the springs. A little bit tough. This one's a little bit easier to do. So we're going to throw that in there. Now we're going to get our, wherever it's at, here it is, our low reverse spring compressor tool. Roll that down. I like to put it at 3 and 9 o'clock, just like so. Just go ahead and start walking that down. You want to make sure it straddles it right in the middle, right in the center of it. Go ahead and walk that down. And it shouldn't give you any issues. If it does, just walk it around with a flat head. Bam. Now that's all the way down. Now we're going to get our snap ring here.
Scaly.
This is probably really hard to see, but I like to put the opening at about 2 o'clock, push the top in, pull back with my back finger, and just kind of walk it in. And these are a little bit easier than like a 700R, where the snap rings are a bit tighter. Now you want to make sure that's all the way locked in.
Or else it's going to come up and hit you in the teeth.
Yep. I like to take my screwdriver and go in from the side just to make sure that's completely locked in. That looks really, really good. Okay, now we have our first bearing here. This does have a lip on it. You can see that there.
Now we came towards each other at the same time.
That faces down. Okay, that faces down. Now we're going to take our, and we have replaced that bushing in there already, the case bushing. I just didn't show it. There's not really much to show. Just make sure you replace that bearing down, or that bushing down there if you need to. Now, here's our little chode output shaft for 4-wheel drive. We're gonna go right down in just like that with it. Make sure it spins. And a lot of times this bushing here will be bad, so just double check that for your input-output shaft bushing. We're gonna find our 3-prong washer here. And we're gonna drop that into the three holes there, just like that. Here's our lower planetary. I'm just gonna put a little bit of grease on that, a little bit of transmission fluid. You don't have to be crazy with it. And we've already replaced that bushing as well. We're gonna drop that in. Make sure that falls down just like so. Now we're gonna move on to our low reverse clutch pack. Okay, now we're gonna start by adding a steel first, followed by a friction. Now again, I'm gonna touch on this. These clutches are dry. That piston and these pistons in the drum, the piston inside of the pump, will not apply until the transmission is full of fluid. And it will also fill the transmission up, and it will disperse the fluid all throughout the transmission like it's supposed to. There's no difference in soaking these frictions versus putting it on the lift, lifting your vehicle off the ground, which I require under warranty for these transmissions. If you're doing your braking procedure properly, you don't have any issues. And this is a 5-clutch piston here. Okay, now let's get our case saver that was already supplied in the transmission. And we're going to drop this in just on the side, just like that. Now we're going to get our, I had it here somewhere, I just got done with it.
Sorry about that, guys.
Here's our center support, and you want to make sure the widest end goes to the about 4 o'clock, 3 and 4 o'clock. We're just going to drop that right into place, just like that. Now we're going to take this snap ring here, and we're going to straddle that case saver. Bam, that looks good. Okay, now I put my screwdriver in here, the small one, and you're gonna make sure that you've got clearance. This is not a crucial spot. As long as you have clearance down here on this lower reverse clutch pack, you're okay. And I like to use a little screwdriver like that just to make sure that it goes in there, and you can hear it moving the clutch pack up and down. All right, next is our plastic 4-prong washer. We're gonna put a little bit of grease in there just to make sure that that stays stationary. This washer looks like it's a bit warped, so I'm going to get a new one. This thing looks like it's just a bit warpy, and I don't really like that too much. I'm going to get a new one for you guys. Okay, we're going to put this washer in just like that, brand new black one. We have replaced this sunshell with a new one, at least a good, nice used one, and we have replaced these bushings in here as well. That faces this end straight down into the transmission. Make sure it spins freely. That feels really, really good. Next is our upper planetary here. I'm gonna drop that in, kind of walking around just a little bit, push it straight down. Okay, we're looking for our small, tiny little snap ring here. There's that little jewel there. And I'll just put it in like this with the opening at about 3 o'clock. Tuck in the top, tuck in the bottom, push it down. Make sure it's seated. That looks really good. And again, just make sure this spins. Looks good to me. We found another one of these ring gears for him. And we want to make sure we don't forget our 4-prong washer here. We're going to set that right on top of the planetary and set a ring gear right on top of that. That feels really good. That's nice and smooth. I love that. Now, to make sure this next washer stays in place, we're just going to put some grease on here. And then we're going to put washer in just like that. And next is our drums. All right, here's our drums. You just want to set these things right in and walk them around. Now you want to lift up on this. You hear that? That means it's bottomed out. It's not getting hung on a clutch. You can really hear that noise. A lot of this transmission building is touch and noise. You just got to know what you're listening for. Okay, next is our band. And here's our band. This little notch here goes in the top. And it kind of locks in with that middle tooth. You want to take a screwdriver and just prop that back just like that. Next is our intermediate clutch pack. Let's wipe this off just a little bit here. And now our 3 here on the bottom, right there, is going to go just like this. Bam. Frictions here. The single notch goes down on the bottom just like that. And just alternate. Just like that. And then you can put another steel up in here or a wavy. It really just depends on your preference. Alright, here's our wavy. That goes in just like this. And now we're going to take our pump. Gonna flip it over. We're not gonna put our Teflon rings on or anything, or our sealing rings. We're gonna put a little bit of grease here. And we're gonna put this bearing on, just like that. No seal on the side, no gasket yet. Flip it over, and your 3 on the bottom need to match up with these 3 on the bottom. You're gonna put that in really fast. Make sure your holes are aligned. Should drop right in. Put 1 bolt here. You can use a little screwdriver to make sure you're fully aligned. Bam. Gonna run that down, just like so. Now we're gonna check the end play here. I'm doing this by feel. You want about 20 thousandths. You don't want it to be absolutely smashed tight because then you can build a lot of heat. And this thing was shimmed before, and I just think that was a little bit too tight. So I'm taking the shim out, and I'm just going with the bearing. Once we add the gasket, it's going to bring the pump back just a little bit and give us a little bit more, and then we'll finally flip it over and do a final check when everything's in there and seated properly. So you're going to pull this back out, take your pump back out, put some grease around where your pump rides here, just like that. You're going to take your gasket here and put it in just like this with your 2 eyes on the top there. Make sure that's sealed in. And we're going to flip this back over. We're going to find our sealing ring kits here. The white ones go on the top. There's 1. There's 2. You want to look for the green dot here. Walk this down. There's 3. And we're going to skip this one here because we're going to dual feed 2nd gear. Walk this down all the way to the bottom. Just like that. And we want to make sure we grease this up nice and generously on all of these. Make sure it goes in right, seals right. This flipping, when it's cold, man, this assembly goose sucks. I do not like this whatsoever. Vaseline is
superior.
Superior. It really is. I really like Vaseline. Now, our pump seal. It goes around the outside of the pump just like that. The white faces out to you. You can see that there. And you want to roll this thing around and make sure it's not bent in any way. And you want to take some transmission fluid and just walk around that seal. Be pretty generous with that. and you can wipe off any excess if it squirts it back out at you. Okay. Now, and we are going to reinstall the pump. Make sure it bottoms out. I'm going to put a screwdriver in to make sure we're straight up and down. And we're going to find all of our pump bolts here. One more. Two more. I'm going to tighten this down very slowly. Don't gun it. You don't want to tighten it with the impact. You just want to snug it down just like that. Now you want to go around and make sure they're snug. I've built 600 of these freaking 350s, and I've never used a torque wrench on a single pump, and I've never had a bolt back out. I've never had a problem with a pump leaking. You don't, some of this stuff, man, it's by feel.
I'm sure if you really had to, you could probably Google the torque specs.
Absolutely.
If that's your thing,
that's your
I'm
thing.
sure you can find it on Google.
I'm a master. I don't need no torque specs. Tyler, you're arrogant. No, I'm a master. There's a difference. Bam, done. We need to put our seal in. Make sure we get a little bit of Loctite on that. You can put a little bit of Loctite around this seal. Oh my gosh! He's using a claw hammer! Oh god, I'm gonna have a freaking seizure! It's ridiculous, you guys, I swear. It is absolutely ridiculous. Alright, your internal part of your transmission is complete. Let's flip this thing over and check the in-play one more time. Just like that. You want to be able to hear that. You don't want it to move a lot. You just need to be able to hear the parts moving in there, and that's about 10 thousandths. That's right on the money. All right, this is your accumulator. I'm not going to put the spring back in it because it just softens the shift. I'm just going to throw this in the side here. Bam, just like that. And here's your cap.
Sorry about that. I stumbled over my own feet.
Well, it's quite okay, sir. Now you want to make sure to install this seal first inside of the case. You don't want to put it around the cap because it can get hemmed up. I just like to walk it in there on top of that ridge and then push this in just a little bit and take my handy dandy true temper, give it a good tap. Make sure you put your round snap ring back in here. Bam, that snaps right into place like that. Now we're going to move over here to our selector arm. I've got my bag here full of my small seals. I'm going to go ahead and put my one check ball here in this location. No other check balls are used. I'm going to take my seal here, put it inside of the case. I'm going to walk this in with a little socket. That way that seal is fully in place. Here's my selector right here. Now I'm going to put a little bit of grease here on the shaft, not on the threads. These things get boogered up pretty easily going back in this. And it was really tough to get out for some reason. And it's being tough to get back in there too. I wonder why that is. Let's see if I have another one down here in my ADHD drawer. All right, here's our selector arm here. We're going to slide that in, not all the way. We're going to take our, I got to find my parking rod there. There's your rooster comb. Take your rooster comb here and just position it inside just like this, just like that. You're going to take some Loctite and drop right onto the threads. And again, I can't touch on that enough, that if you don't Loctite that, it can come free and it can move the vehicle without you shifting any gears. If that manual valve moves, your vehicle is going to try to move. So I'm very generous with my Loctite here. And it's an 11/16 nut. We're going to walk it down with our hands. There. We're going to get it in behind that parking prowl, push down, and get our wrench here. We're going to tighten this very well. All right, that's very tight. Now your clip here, spacing clip, pushes on just like that. Give it a pop.
Loser.
I chucked it. There's another one. Try this with a 3/4. Bam. That's right. See that? That's how it's supposed to work there. That looks good. Tuck that in behind your parking prowl. Your little lever there. And here is your retainer. And these had 1/2" nut bolts on them too. And I like to put just a dab of Loctite in there. Just like that. Just to make sure these don't come out. Run these down. And then just go back over them with your ratchet and make sure they're tight. Okay. Take your spring here for this accumulator. Take your top hat and sit on top of it. Your dimpled end or the chamfered end faces down. Make sure you have this washer on here for your piston. Make sure it retracts. And the indented end faces up towards you, just like that.
Towards you.
Towards you. It's towards you. It's with you. All right, after that, you can go on all 4 corners here and just put a little bit of grease. That'll be fine. Now line your first valve body gasket up here. Okay. That's good. Now we're going to move over here. Good. All right, you're going to put a finish nail right here. Right there. I already cut the finish nail. Now I'm going to straddle this plate over the top of it. Give it a good tap there on that side and that side. Since you took that seal off the direct drum, you have to do this to ensure that you block off a certain circuit. That way it does double feed second gear. Now we're going to throw our separator plate on just like so. And your, I guess this would be your lower valve body gasket, has this chamfer here for the support plate. The other one does not have this chamfer. So make sure you don't get your gaskets mixed up. I'll align it just like that. Then I'll put my 2 valve body bolts in just to make sure it stays straight. Let me grab my support plate. And here is your support plate. It goes on just like this. Now you're going to take your small 1/2" bolts and just give them a good start with the finger. Put them down just like that. Ooh.
Oh God.
Scally, why you gotta fart like that?
Trying to shoot a video, Scaly.
Yeah, Scally. Gonna run these down now. And go back over them with your ratchet. Don't ever hand tighten a bolt, or don't ever tighten a bolt down in the transmission with your gun. I mean, I'm a little bit unorthodox, but I don't ever try to pull that card. You're just asking for a comeback.
Well, not to mention, I mean, a lot of these things, the threads are really easy to just...
Yeah, so you want to be careful That's why a torque wrench is also frowned upon with these old transmissions, because if you go by the torque settings, sometimes it's too tight and it'll pull the threads out. But a little bit of Loctite and hand tight, you know, if it's behind the torque threshold, at least you're not chuffing up the threads and having to go back in and put a helicoil in it, because after you get your transmission together, if you got a drill in any of this, you got to take the whole transmission apart and redo it. These are the things that I know that I'm trying to show you guys. And a lot of you jump to conclusions and say, oh, Tyler, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. I've been doing this for freaking 15 years. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Now we're going to grab our valve body. We're going to prop it up like this. We're going to put our kick down cable in. Make sure our S-link is facing this way. And we're going to set this right on top. Make sure this goes down into your hole on the left side there. If you don't freaking drop it back into the transmission. Oh, we're just chopping it today. We're just chopping it today, ladies and gentlemen. I just have to hold it with my 2 fingers there. I'm gonna drop that in just like that, and then make sure our S-link connects to our rooster comb over here, just like that. And we're going to make sure our valve body is up above before we drop it. We don't want to rip the gasket. Bam. Now we're going to add our bolts in and tighten them all down. And you want to make sure you tighten these two and these two first, or you'll have your valve body in a bind and you're going to chuff up some threads if you're not too careful. I like to wiggle it just to make sure everything's in there right. You can hand start some of these. You're going to take your gun here and just walk this down. I think that's a little biggered up, it's okay. Now you're going to go around, starting in the middle. Just tighten all these down. Okay, now the spring here, you want to make sure that you put it into the 3rd notch. And with the 3rd notch, you want to make sure that your manual valve is flush, at least very close to flush over here with your valve.
See if I can get to it.
With the valve body. You see how that's basically flush against the, there's a little bit of room there, but that's no big deal. If it's pushing out a little bit further or inward, you need to adjust this rooster comb just a little bit. I'm going to tighten this down. And there's that. Now, we've got our gasket for our filter here. I like to put a little bit of grease to make sure that gasket goes on there flush, because it can walk on you pretty easily. Just squeeze that down with some grease there, just like that. And then make sure that you put your filter on straight. I like to make sure that my bolts are facing down, or the holes are facing down, and then just flop over just like that. Bam. Now you got your 2 1/4-20 flathead bolts here. Let's go ahead and get those started. Run those down with a flathead screwdriver. You don't want to tighten these things too far because you can pull the threads out fairly easily. So you just want to make sure that they are nice and snug. Bam and bam. All right, now we're going to put our governor in really quick. We made sure this thing moves up and down. There's no marks where it rides in the case. That slides right in over here. Then your seal goes around your cap. This is a square seal, just like that. And you're going to take some red Loctite and just run a nice thin line around here to make sure it doesn't leak. These things are freaking notorious for leaking. There's our pump gasket.
That's a pan gasket.
Well, that's getting late, you know, Cody. It's a pan gasket. here I am. I'm a little bit dyslexic when it gets late, ladies and gentlemen.
Good Lord.
Right.
Scaly.
Hooting all over the place, bro. We're going to get gassed out of here.
Trying to shoot a video.
Crop dusting cat. And here's your pan.
Cam Kitty Scaly.
Cam Kitty.
It's a nice pan.
It is a nice pan. I like the black. I'm just going to finger tight these two because I have to take this outside and paint it for the customer. So I don't want to paint the pan. I'm just putting it on here for you guys to see. It goes on just like this, obviously. You get a little bit of lubrication on your stem here. It goes right here in front of the tranny or in the back of the tranny, whatever you want to, you get what I mean. Bam, make sure your O-ring is on your modulator. That tucks in just like that. And then the end that, see how this comes down? If you hold it in front of you, the end that kind of comes in towards you faces down just like that. We get our bolt here. Put that in. Make sure that's snug down. Feels good to me. All right, guys, you've officially built your first 350. Congratulations. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the FSP Transmissions YouTube channel. We're going to do our best to be posting every day or every week, probably Friday or Saturday every single week. I know that we've been a bit busy here. We've been busy making money. And again, if you have a vehicle that you have around my shop, if you're within 2 hours of Hendersonville, North Carolina, and my shop here, we will come and pick up the vehicle for free. We're not going to charge you anything extra at the end of the bill. We just want to give back to the community because you guys have showed so much support for us. But congratulations on building your first Turbo 350, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. God bless.